Mike, we talked a little bit before putting this video together. I think this is going to be a fun one. I think a lot of questions are going to come back and forth. We both might be doing some Rashading and weaving those questions. That was a real big stretch, but how you doing?
That was terrible, first and foremost. But no, I think that this is really the first prospect that we seem to have a pretty substantial disagreement on. You know, Mike and I, we usually come together before these videos and sort of just do a general quick overview so we get an idea of how the video is going to flow. But yeah, we'll get right into the background before we get into the grades. The big thing with Weaver is first and foremost that you'll notice he missed 2019. He had an ACL injury, I believe, missed it with a knee injury. So my first question to you, Mike, is that a concern? And do you think that there were any noticeable effects of that on film? I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it is a concern, and you can tell a difference. And you're going to mention it, and this is where we, disagree. A big part of it is he doesn't necessarily have that bend. He does look a little bit stiff, but I don't think I've seen one really D end outside linebacker prospect that didn't look stiff this year. I think it's a consistent problem across the board. So that's where I don't put as much of an issue on it. But yeah, obviously, if you tear an ACL, that's always a concern. But we've also had some other D ends with some injury concerns, such as Jalen Phillips. So I think it's a concern. You keep an eye on it, but I don't know if you want to wait till the next slide, but I liked what I saw, and I don't think the stats tell the full story.
No, I will say first though, not to personalize it again, but I will. Having watched some of his 2018 film going into 2020, like his play style, I don't necessarily think that a lot of guys get worse after an injury. I don't think he necessarily got worse. I think that he just changed the way that he played because you can tell that he got so much stronger between 2018 and 2020. And how I was going to personalize it was, I played football for 17 years. The time when I got the strongest terms of my play strength was when I was out with a hip injury, because all you do every day is upper body and you're continually working kind of that chest, tries, buys, all that stuff. And I think you can definitely see that with Weaver here. I think he's by far, I would argue, the strongest guy we've seen in terms of his hands when he's striking. I think you see that primarily in terms of his ability to set the edge and anchor. I know Mike's probably having a stroke over my explosiveness, quickness, and flexibility and bend grades. I just didn't think that he did it very well comparatively, say, to the guys we've seen to this point. I thought he was even worse than them, and not even that a 9.5 is bad. It's just in sort of that second, third tier. I would say from there, the hand usage was really solid, block deconstruction solid, motor solid. Everything was pretty solid across the board. My question is more just the limited athletic ceiling, if that makes sense, which kind of holds his grade and pulls it down, I guess you could say, to a 70.5. So, Mike, obviously, you're higher on Rashad. I can see it in your face. What are your thoughts on the grade?
You want me to just go down the list? Explosive quickness, yes. It wasn't something that jumped off film. We've seen actually better. Aziz and I think Owe, I think showed more consistent explosiveness, quickness, but it's not a 9.5. I didn't see that gap. I think it's closer to 11, 12. I'd say 11 and a half. Ability to set the edge, anchor, I think he did a really good job. I think 13.75 is great. Flexibility, bend. I just don't feel. I don't know what I saw comparative to the other DNs we watched. I don't think it's that big of a gap. I think it's actually pretty consistent. Like I don't know. There's not one, not even Aziz, which I'd say maybe, and not even Aziz. I'm not even sure. You'd say Phillips.
I would say Phillips. Yep.
Like I don't think there was that much more flexibility bend watching Phillips than there was compared to Weaver. So I don't get that. I think hand usage actually was really nice. Like I think that's where and maybe he just came through strength and like his ability to get the tackle away from his chest and then make a move to disengage. But I think that's higher. Like basically go across the board. Athleticism, I'd probably give a little bit higher. Maybe I agree with size and length. Like I think that might be the grade I agree with. Actually, I lied. There is one that's kind of low, and I do agree with finishing tackling. And that is where I do think he can improve. I think there was a lot of plays I watched where he was disruptive. And even in the run game, a lot of plays where he should have been the guy making the tackle, but he just didn't. So it's like, and then the play goes, 10, 15 yards, but like he was right there. If he can learn to put that running back on the ground or put the quarterback in a little bit more, and I think in the quarterback, I think it would show in his pressures that he did put the quarterback in an uncomfortable position, but he was right there to make the play, and I think he did it more consistent than most of the people we've watched. Um, I I don't agree with your grade.
So so I'm just curious now, your raw grade, you're getting into say the 80s, high 70s. Where are you thinking here, Mike? Because this is really the first time that we've had a massive disagreement like this. So where are you at there,
Let's
you think?
get on the big board. Let me just see where. Okay,
So
take a look at this. Um, so first of all, I've already said kind of Phillips Rousseau. I'm probably swapping them. Um, oh man, I'm probably having. I'd actually probably where I would go with this if I was this big. This is my big board. Um, he's where Phillips is for me. That's
wow.
where I'd actually have Weaver. I'm probably keeping. I'm probably putting Rousseau and Phillips back to back, pretty close grades, and I'm probably putting Weaver at that 77.25 raw. I mean, final grade of 81.5. That's probably where this. That's where I'd have him.
That's interesting. I didn't quite see that. Obviously, I thought that I was a little bit lower on him overall. I think that's interesting because just from what I've seen around Weaver, some people are calling him the second best pass rusher on his own team, which we haven't got into Patrick Jones yet. Make sure you make sure you sub to the channel and be on the lookout for that video soon. But no, that's fascinating to me. So you wouldn't have a problem if somebody took Weaver in the late first, early second. Is that kind of what you're saying here?
Yeah,
Wow.
honestly, yeah, no, it's quite a bit different of a grade. Um, what I probably, hmm, I think Rousseau has a higher ceiling. I think if you're looking for an all around, already kind of having some of that technique and talent, like if you're just looking for a high floor, I'm taking Weaver over Phillips. So I think, um, would I probably take him in the first round? No. And we've already talked about it. There's a position value. So if you're in that late in that first round, DN's position of need and Quiddy Pay and Aziz are already gone. Then yeah, I wouldn't mind it, but no, probably mid mid to early second to mid. If you get him in the mid, I think that's good value. I think he's a guy that can produce right off the bat, and I think in a variety of ways. Like I didn't see a weakness. Like I'm not gonna lie. Um, Nothing really jumped. And this is where I might agree with you. I'm not sure he's the best at anything I saw out of all these prospects.
Okay.
I think every first step. I think away, um, away has and Aziz have a better first step on a more consistent basis. Strength. I think Quiddy Pay, um, just off pure raw strength. I think off size, Rousseau is probably your most prototypical D end.
Pass
Um,
rushing Aziz,
Yeah,
obviously.
and then athleticism again, kind of Aziz in a way. Um,
Jalen Phillips is sort of that short area quickness guy.
yeah, but I think he does at everything else. He's like second or third in like all those categories, and I think just in a consistent, like he puts the most together, and um, that's where he is for me. So um,
That's interesting. I'll be honest, because I wrote in my notes. My number one note here was I was going to ask Mike, do you think he needs to be four tech? Like, do you think he needs to be in a limited role? You're saying rip the notes up, and you're saying play him as a five tech. You think this guy could be a team's number one option?
hmm, I don't think there's a lot of number one options here in this
Okay,
whole draft. So like,
that's where we'll
let's
agree.
take a step back. Let's take a step back. Like I don't think Aziz and Quiddy, like I guess they could produce at that level, but like no, probably not. We've seen teams draft number twos high. Mark Davenport comes to mind. Bradley Chubb, a top four pick. Um, Von Miller was the number one, and now it looks like Chubb is going to be the number one moving forward. But um, so no, I don't think there is a number one here. And they can all produce. I think um, there's a lot of high floors here. I mean high ceilings here. But no, I think come day one, who would I want? Like, no, I think Aziz, Quiddy are by far your best. But if I'm in that second round, those two are gone. Weaver's the guy I want stepping in day one. I think he's by far out of that next group of guys. He's the guy that can step in and make an impact early on.
Yeah, I might agree with that. I think that in terms of the polish, I do agree that Weaver is towards the top of that list. I just think that for me, it comes back to, again, that limited athletic ceiling. You know, that's what scares me. And that's why I thought that maybe he would be best fit in sort of a specialized role as say a four tech. Whereas I think that a guy like Owe or Basham, they have room to grow and you know, be those dynamic pass rushers. I don't know if that's there as much for me, at least, with Weaver, but I guess that's where we're gonna have to agree to disagree. So if you guys obviously have watched the film on Weaver, if you've formed your own opinion, drop it down in the comments below. Tell us where you think Rashad Weaver rates, at least amongst his edge rushers. Do you think he's the number 3 guy like Mike believes, or do you think he's closer to that 5-6 conversation as I do? And with that being said, Mike, is that all you got here or what?
I think that's all I got. I think I said enough. So I think we definitely mic'd up and we micing out.
Peace,
Deuces.
guys.